Hello, Sumo fans. Sorry I'm like a couple minutes late. Trying to do some tests here so we don't have any weird staticky things happen again tonight. So anyway, here we go. We are going to go over day 12, some of the highlights, and I would say some of the lowlights. This was not my favorite day of sumo ever. That's for sure. We can talk a little bit about what's going on and, whether it's really so conspiratorial or not. Some people have said some things that maybe I agree with, but we'll get there. So before we go into the U-Show race, let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that were going on. So Shimazumi got his Kachikoshi. Very, very cool. We can talk about him a little bit later, but I wanted to make that note right away. And Shonana Umi, we'll talk about him a little bit too. And Wakamoto Haru loses today, which kind of throws that, dark horse thing out of the way. But I still think he can play spoiler if he's matched up appropriately. Granted, it looks like tomorrow's really going to determine what's going on. So, let's see. We have the Sanyaku watch. Who's actually going to take it? Who's going to, fill these spots should we lose a couple guys? Let's see. So, first we'll talk about Kotonowaka versus Onosho. Kotonowaka's at the top. 11-1. This was a pretty lame match. I don't like to say that very often, but here we have a guy who's 10-2. He's super, super dominant. We're on day 12. And it's kind of like the last thing you want to see is like Onosho. If Onosho was, a couple days ago when I was starting to think like, okay, maybe Onosho's putting it together. It was like, no, this is the guy who got a couple of Fusen wins and, he slips against Kotonowaka. Like, this was not a day 12 match. So it was kind of lame. I move on from that. Then you have Takanosho versus Hoshoryu. And, Hoshoryu clearly outclassed Takanosho. Maybe the Takanosho of the past would have been a little bit more of an interesting match, but Hoshoryu baited him right into a throw. He, made it look very, very easy. Then you had Kirishima versus Tamawashi. This could have been an exciting match if Tamawashi, once again, maybe Tamawashi of last year, but he wasn't looking, he's looking like the old guy at the end of the 2-week tournament. And so Kirishima really didn't have to break a sweat and took care of business. And then we had Teru versus Onosato. Now, this match was going to happen. Maybe not against the Yokozuna. That's where it's a little iffy. But Onosato had earned his way into, being able to face the Yusho contenders. The problem is in previous tournaments, I don't know that we would have had Onosato face the Yokozuna. But the Yokozuna is hurt. They are desperately trying to get him across the finish line. They are desperately trying to get Kirishima to get the promotion. They don't want Kotonowaka to fall out. So let's just say that the scheduling was pretty favorable toward having certain results happen. Now, the way that everybody's fighting, a lot of these double-digit Maegaeshira fighters, the way that they're fighting, they earned their way to face higher level opponents. But in some past tournaments, guys got snubbed. I still remember Ichinojo was not allowed to fight Hakuho, even though he was tied with him because Hakuho was going to face the other Yokozuna that day. So it's it's a little sketchy, and it wasn't super fun to watch. Would much rather talk about tomorrow, and unfortunately we won't be live streaming tomorrow night, but really the the excitement is going to happen tomorrow, and it's going to be over pretty quick considering the matchups. But before I get to those matchups, let's talk about the other things because I was waiting for you guys to come. I see that Monster and Mitch are here. And Monster reiterates my point of finally the Sanyaku are fighting each other instead of the rank and filers. Not only are they fighting rank and filers, they're fighting like double-digit rank and filers. It's really weird. Not super fun. And hello, Mitch. I'm glad you're here. So, as I said in the beginning of the show, Shimazumi gets his Kachikoshi. This is very exciting. Now we can feel free to talk about him with no concern. I think he's going to be a very interesting fighter going forward because he has a lot of tenacity and he's taking advantage of this, amazing opportunity to finally be in the top division. So it should be interesting to see what he does, especially if we have more veteran guys kind of slip out and more young fighters come up. Shimazumi could potentially stick around for a while if he's always fighting the young new guys. He's got a better shot there. So Shonan Umi, I found this to be a very poetic match. Shonan Umi finally wakes up and hits against Shodai. Didn't we say last night that he was very Shodai? So apparently he can't out Shodai. So that made me chuckle a little bit. And as I said, Wakamoto Haru loses, kind of takes a little of the wind out of the sails. Now he's 8-4, completely out of the picture, even though really he always was. It's just, it was making it more interesting because in previous tournaments, and maybe we're spoiled now, in previous tournaments, we'd have like 10 guys that were all in it on day 11. And then day 12, it would go down to 6 or whatever. And it just, there was a lot more tension and potential chaos. And this is more like a normal, like 5 to 10 years ago type of tournament where the top guys are the top. But the upper Maegaeshira are not doing so hot. They're not doing so hot. So that might make it a little bit different. Let's go into tomorrow's matchups and then we can talk about the Sanyaku watch. So tomorrow is really for all the marbles. We have Kotonowaka versus Terunofuji and Hoshoryu versus Kirishima. Both extremely fascinating matches. I get very excited every time Hoshoryu and Kirishima fight, even if it's not for the U show. But tomorrow is for all the marbles. There is so much riding on Kirishima's shoulders. And he's fought Hoshoryu on a lot of times, and they've been in big matches together, and they're very evenly matched. So I expect him to be quite nervous tomorrow. But if he wants to be the Yokozuna, this is where you find a way to be the guy. I'm gonna just look at the comments real quick. Okay. I see your point, Mitch. We will talk about that after I get through this. So who do you guys think is going to win Hoshoryu versus Kirishima? Do you think Kirishima is just going to do his thing and get the promotion? Or do you think Hoshoryu is going to just crush it and win this whole thing? Because either is possible. I can't even make a guess because I'm too nervous thinking about it. I'm just going to be waiting and seeing, and when it's time to watch, butterflies in my stomach because there's so much riding on that match. And then we have Kotonowaka versus Terunofuji. I really like this matchup because Kotonowaka is such a beastly presence, and so is Terunofuji. And we know that Terunofuji is just a shadow of himself right now. But Kotonowaka isn't the guy yet. You're not the guy until you win the matches. So this is another potential. This is another potential for a changing of the guard. Like we have been talking about, okay, Kirishima versus Terunofuji, pass on the baton. But Kotonowaka versus Terunofuji has the same feeling to it. Because Kotonowaka wants to be Ozeki and he wants to be Yokozuna. So maybe he's a step behind, but the feeling is the same. So a lot riding on that match tomorrow too. It made me realize, though, that I did not talk about Terunofuji versus Onosato. My bad. Let me back up and talk about that and then go back to this match. So it was still an interesting match watching Terunofuji fight Onosato, but you knew already what was going to happen. You knew Teru was going to go for the arm, which he did. And Onosato was just too nervous and just not... He wasn't ready to fight a Yokozuna. He didn't look terrible up there, though. He looked good. But it just seemed like there was absolutely no way he was going to be competitive. He's just not ready yet. But great experience for him. I think it's, if he comes out of this tournament completely physically unscathed, I think that he is going to be a rock star in March because he got a lot of really great experience right off the bat. So back to Kota Nawaka and Terunofuji. This is an opportunity for Kota Nawaka to really step up and be the man. While everybody's looking at other people, he could just steal the spotlight away. So, who knows? It's for all the marbles. So let's see. Let's start reading some comments. Matthew says, hey, awesome, last 3 days coming up. Absolutely. The last 3 days are usually pretty cool. But this one, this one's going to probably be decided by day 14. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that whoever wins tomorrow is, like, if Kota Nawaka wins tomorrow, I think he runs away with it. If it's all tied up and messy, then obviously we could have just it all come down to the last day. Daniel says, I'm hoping Zumi can have a similar success as Koto Eko Ishiura had as a smaller guy. He certainly has the tenacity too, and that's what I think you need as a small guy. You just need to be moving a lot, working the angles, never giving up, always believing you can win. And he's a little bit bigger than those guys, so that works to his advantage as well. Mitch says, I'm going to disagree to the idea that the schedulers threw Terunofuji softballs the last 2 days. I believe that if Takayasu and Takakesha were participating, he wouldn't have had the dual Onos. This is an excellent point. There is definitely a huge, gap without those guys there. Now, Takayasu and Takakesha have had plenty of tournaments that they weren't in. But in this one, yeah, that makes a huge difference. And, Asanoyama probably would have been fighting these guys too if he didn't have to. I think he's coming back tomorrow, but, now he's totally out of it completely. But if Asanoyama was also in, you would have seen him in the rotation as well. Monster says, most other people are like, I just want the top guys to dominate. But the people here see it happening and think it's too normal. It's such a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because we all, I don't know if we all did, but for the most part, many of us had watched at least the end of Hakuho. And it was like every tournament, you're thinking, okay, if Hakuho is healthy, he's going to win. So it was really a question of how dominant is Hakuho going to be, or is he going to pull out of the tournament and then we have chaos. Then Hakuho leaves, and for a brief time, it was chaotic again. And then we had Terunofuji for just a little small amount of time who would just dominate. And then Takakesha was up there and they had this nice little rivalry going on. But then it went to complete insanity. And now we are just not used to the top guys being the top guys. It may take a while to get comfortable with that idea. So Monster thinks Kirishima is going to win tomorrow. Matthew thinks Hoshoryu is going to pull another throw. The interesting thing about that is either guy could catch either guy. You might actually see the dancing thing, where one guy tries to throw him and it gets blocked, and then they go the other way and that guy blocks, and you're just all around. I hope that's what we get. Then you're just all around the ring trying to pull throws at the last minute, and then somebody gets the best of it. Monster says it could go either way, really, and it could, because both guys have the potential to win, and both guys have the potential to choke. There are some wrestlers where you're like, no, he never chokes, or, oh, he always chokes. This is so evenly matched. Like, Hoshoryu has beaten Kirishima. Kirishima has beaten Hoshoryu. Similar styles. Hoshoryu has lost in big matches, which have cost him. But Kirishima is going for Yokozuna, and that is not an easy thing to do. Think about it for a second. You've got a split second on the Tachi. If you lose the Tachi, then you got to come up with something. And a match is, usually only 30 seconds long, and that might be a long time. So one slip, one mistake, a thought that pops into your head at the wrong moment, and it's over. So, and Daniel's sort of saying this. Kirishima seems to be in better physical condition, but Hoshoryu doesn't have nearly as much pressure on his shoulders. I'm thinking Hoshoryu wins because of a Kirishima mistake. I could see that. I really could. Hoshoryu's got nothing on him this tournament. There have been other tournaments where I felt the weight of the world was on his shoulders. But this tournament, it's almost like Hoshoryu is just, like I said, in a mood. He's in a mood, and he's just going to go in there, fight his match, and be done with it. And not think too hard about it, and not plan too far ahead, and just, all business. Whereas Kirishima, he's down to the wire. He's put himself in contention. He's put himself in the position where he could win the tournament and could get the promotion, but he's not the guy in the lead. He needs other guys to lose. So there's a lot riding on his shoulders. And you know how badly everybody wants the new Yokozuna. If he loses this and Kota Nowaka wins this, that means we have to start all over again. Whereas if Hoshoryu wins, we get another Yokozuna run. So, I think everybody kind of just wants it to be done. I know I do. I really want it to be done. I would love nothing more than Kirishima getting in there, winning out. Kota Nowaka makes a mistake. We get a new Yokozuna, and then we can just breathe for a little while. But that is not how the past few years have gone. So I'm not necessarily expecting it. Mitch says, I like Kirishima today. I feel Hoshoryu might get too amped up and get himself into trouble. I'm more worried about the day 14-15 when Kirishima will have Kota Nowaka and Terunofuji. Yeah, never count Terunofuji out. I mean, he's got a plan. He's going for everybody's arms. So don't stick him out. And if he has to break it, he will. And the last thing you'd want to see is Kirishima get a broken arm on a Yokozuna run. So, yeah, watch out for the desperate Yokozuna. And then Kota Nowaka looks unbeatable. He really does. But he's had some easy matches too. So, we haven't really seen him until we see tomorrow. We really just, it's like we're just going to finally get a glimpse of what he's really all about, and the tournament's going to be over. Monster says, Asanoyama coming back is still a big story. I want to see him get that 8th win. It is a big story because he can put himself back in Sanyaku. I know he's a little far out, but if there's a lot of spots and he's the only one with a winning score, they're probably going to give it to him. I mean, there's no precedent about, Sanyaku must do this, or, to get into Sanyaku. They can do whatever they want there. So if there's a big gaping hole in all these guys, we are going to talk about the Sanyaku situation. If all these guys fall apart and Asanoyama doesn't, he might be in Sanyaku in March. Mitch says, not to mention that Terunofuji's Maegaeshira schedule was forced to be stretched due to having to skip Atami Fuji and Midori Fuji. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, too. That's a very good point, too. I forgot all about that. That's the beauty of being in a stable with a lot of top guys. Monster says, Koto Eko came back too and won somehow. I couldn't believe that, although maybe that says more about how bad this opponent was doing. He did a pretty cool move too. I actually looked at some Juryo matches today, and I forget which one you told me to watch. Please tell me, and I hope that I did watch it because I only watched 4 matches. But he did a Kimi Taoshi. I haven't seen that before. That was pretty cool. So, Koto Eko, he's still giving it. Monster says, look at their records. Kirishima is weaker in the first week, but Hoshoryu loses more in the second week. Yes, this I am aware of. Shoryu usually loses like 1 or 2 really important matches at the end. And there was one time where that didn't matter and he still won the Yusho. But he lost against Kota Iwaka in the tournament that he won the Yusho. So it's got to be on his mind and he's got to tighten up in that second week. Kirishima is, the thing about him is he doesn't look unflappable. He looks like he could be beaten, but he hasn't been. So it kind of doesn't matter how he looks if he finds a way to win. Mitch says, I need to go back and watch that Koto Eko match. I was digging through the results and saw that he won by Kimi Taoshi. It was pretty cool. I was glad to, I was kind of skipping through, fast forwarding, because I was trying to, okay, I did see it, Monster. I was trying to flip through and watch the match that Monster had told me to watch before the stream, and I was literally doing it at 8:45. So I'm like, I don't have a lot of time. I got to figure out which match it was. It was probably Tohakuryu. Because I didn't have the YouTube channel open to look at the comments. And as I was doing that, I came across the Koto Eko match. And I was like, sweet. Very sweet. Monster says, I don't think he'll reach Sanyaku, but he can get a big jump because of all the losing records around him. You just never know. You really don't know. This is the kind of wild tournament where all sorts of things could happen. Let's throw some scenarios out there. So, you could have Kota Iwaka become Ozeki. You could have Kirishima become Yokozuna. You could have the Yokozuna retire. And you could have all the guys in Sanyaku except for Daisho. With the 7th win today, he's still in. You could have all those guys fall out, and then all the top Maegaeshira have been having a terrible time. You gotta put somebody up there. I mean, he probably won't, but I'm not saying it's impossible. And then Monster says, Shimano Umi versus my man Tohakuryu. That was a very funny match because Tohakuryu, he did win with the pole and the ballet move at the end, but he was doing a lot of pushing and thrusting. I didn't know he did that. I thought he just kind of grappled you and pulled. So he's added the pusher thruster thing to his repertoire. Very, very interesting. Drop Tuned One said, I wish I had more time to stick around, so I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoy your sumo discussion. Well, thank you for dropping in. That's pretty cool. You know, I know it's tough the times that I'm available, but I'm glad if you do listen later on, and always feel free to write a comment after the fact because I read all the comments. Although I will admit, I saw there was like 4 comments before the stream and I'm like, oh no, I'm behind in the comments. But I do get to them all eventually. So feel free to put a comment if you want to talk about something after, you've had to come out. Be more than happy to have a lengthy discussion in the comment section. Monster said, Tohakuryu unleashed a remarkable new technique, blinding palm. Your enthusiasm for Tohakuryu is making me fond of Tohakuryu. Like, I don't think I can think any less of him now. Because now when I see Tohakuryu, I'm like, oh, Monster's watching this match. So, yes, he was definitely doing some stuff. Like, he had the hands flying. I didn't even recognize his technique. I'm like, where's the poles? Where's the scrambling? It's like, he's just going to bust you right in the eye. Mitch says, Asaneyama probably won't make it all the way to Sanyaku. Daisho probably will hold Sekiraki rank, and the Komusubi looks like Wakamoto Haru and Tobizaru. Damn it. Oh, please let it be Tobizaru. Yeah, Daisho's going to hold it because he got his 7th win today, and we had discussed, even if he gets a 7 and 8, the worst that can happen is he gets dropped to Komusubi, especially in light of what's going on. So he will likely maintain his spot. Now we're just waiting to see. Obviously, Wakamoto Haru is going up as well. He has an 8-4 record. We're waiting to see what happens with Abi and Tobizaru. And I don't know if we have a couple other guys. I'll look at that in a second. Let's see. I want to look at the records because I've already forgotten here. All right, so we have Ura's out. Tobizaru will probably win. Wakamoto Haru's in. Terunofuji, we're waiting to see what happens with him. And Abi, we're waiting to see what happens with him. We see that Shodai is done for as of today. So that's really the question. Yeah, I'm guessing at Maegaeshira 7, it's a very low likelihood, but let's see. Let's say Daisho wins and gets his Kajikoshi. He stays at Sekiwake. Leaves. So they put Wakamoto Haru in the Komusubi spot. Well, would they possibly put Wakamoto Haru in the Sekiwake spot and then open up the 2 Komusubi spots, which then if both Terunofuji and Abi just somehow lose out, then you do have these 2 Komusubi spots open. And that does, I think, open a door for Asanoyama. Depending on what happens, of course. And this is a very outside chance, but it's dicey. I mean, a 6 and 6 is not a guarantee. A 5 and 7 is like you're teetering on the edge. I mean, so Maegaeshira 1 and 2 could both be out. Okay, let's see. I see a bunch of comments now. Monster says that was hilarious. Also, the dancing on the bales from Tohakudo was genuinely top notch. That was incredible. That was the quintessential ballet toe on the straw bales, just twirling and twirling to win. And he also didn't get the call right away. They gave it to Shimano Umi and then had to reverse it. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. Mitch says, I might be wrong, though. He might be next if we need to fill another Sekiwake, but Abi might accidentally get 2 wins and claim the spot. Yeah. So as I was going over all that, you were sort of surmising. Yeah. There is a path to Asanoyama getting a Sanyaku spot. It's kind of wild, but this is kind of a wild situation. Daniel says, Hoshoryu and Kirishima are pretty much the same record in the last 3 days last year. Monster. Hoshoryu is 13-5 and Kiri is 12-6 and also had a Fusen win. So if anything, Hosh is better in the clutch. I do think Hoshoryu does have the edge in the clutch, but Kirishima is embarking in a territory and in a place that Hoshoryu hasn't even gotten to yet. And, this is the time where you dig deep and you find something about yourself that either, man, I can't do things under pressure, or this is how I do things under pressure. Monster says, when Shimano Umi and Tohakudo locked up and Tohakudo's hand was covering Shimano Umi's whole face, I was dying from laughter. Shimano Umi was probably pissed. He was like, what is this weirdo doing to me right now? Today, Tohakudo fights Terunofuji in a match that's very important for the demotion picture. Wow. That will be an interesting match. I got the list for promotion demotion standings whenever you're ready for those. Yes, when I get through these comments, if we don't talk about anything else, I'll be like, okay, go. Let's do this. Mitch says, you're absolutely right. Ignore my Abi comment. Daisho will not vacate a Sanyaku spot. Then Mitch said, Wakamoto Haru will get first crack at the highest vacant spot. Then Monster says, dang, I stand corrected. Yeah, because Daisho will likely hold that Sekiwake spot, they're not going to put Wakamoto Haru in Komusubi if there's an empty spot. Now, of course, we're saying all of this assuming that Kotonowaka gets promoted. If he doesn't, then it's Daisho Kotonowaka with Wakamoto Haru and then only one spot left, and that could go to Tobizaru or Abi, and then Asanoyama's just completely kicked out. Matthew says, I hope Chiyomaru doesn't get demoted to Makushita. If he does, we're looking at possible retirement there. Granted, as we always speak of, some guys stick around a lot longer than they want to because they're trying to get elder stock, and there's just simply not enough out there, especially for guys, that aren't Ozeki or, haven't been like in the top for a long time. So we'll see. I mean, Chiyomaru might still be fighting because he's looking for elder stock, but a lot of guys, once you get to that point, it's just like instant retirement. Like, no way, I'm not fighting in the 3rd division. Okay, so if you want to pull up the promotion demotions list, feel free, Monster. Seems like a good thing to talk about right now. Normally we have like so much to talk about because, the field is wide open, but nope, it's just coming down to 4 guys at this point. I'm going to pull up Juryo in preparation for this discussion. It looks like there's possibly a lag, so if you're not seeing the Juryo thing pop up, just be patient, it's coming. Okay, so interesting. Haku Oho is going to fight Chiyomaru tomorrow. Oh, now I understand why you made that comment. That's brutal. That's so brutal. Okay. Monster says Makushita promotion picture. Oh, this is a tough name. Tsuchi Manada and Wakataka Kage promoted to Juryo. Yuma and Tochi Musashi demoted. Kita Harima is promoted a record 9 times with a win. Haku Oho might also be promoted depending on the circumstances. Well, they have him fighting Chiyomaru tomorrow, so it's probably one of those, if you beat him, we'll promote you. Because everybody wants to hurry up and get him back to where he was. Number 1, Roga, wants a win to seal it up. Nishiki Fuji with a win. Kitanowaka with a win, wants 2 wins. Mitoryu with a win, wants 2 wins. Dayamami with 2 wins. Tohakiryu with 3 wins. So how many guys is that? That's 6 guys right there. 7, Takeru Fuji with 3 wins plus Banzuke luck. And that's the Juryo promotion picture. Let me look at this. Who is set to possibly take the Juryo Yusho? Toki Hayate is 9-3. And let's see. Toki Hayate is 9-3. Roga is 9-3. So that's going to have a bearing as well. If Toki Hayate goes ahead and wins the whole thing, we'll have to see what that does. You got a couple of 8 and 4s. Haku Yozan. Takeru Fuji's the one in the lead. But even with a Juryo Yusho, he's not going to get promoted, I don't think. He's a little bit far down. Although I don't remember where Ichi Yamamoto was when he got promoted. Mitch says, I haven't even looked at the promotion pictures yet. You sure we can't talk tomorrow so I can gather my thoughts? I'll put it down as a maybe. If certain things happen in my schedule tomorrow, I will just show up. I don't want to commit because I have all these things that happen and I don't want everybody waiting for me and then I can't do it. But if I can do it, I'll put a message in the community tab and then I'll just show up and maybe we just talk for a short period of time instead of a long period of time. So I'll think about it. Monster says, demotion picture. Aoyama, Hokuseiho will need luck to survive. Bushozan with a loss. Tomokaze and Endo with a loss. Takeda Fuji with 2 losses. Myogiru with 3 losses. And Churano Umi with 3 losses. Shonana Umi with 3 losses. I'm going to agree with everything Monster says on the grounds of I have no clue what's going on. I'm just going to confuse myself. It is a lot. Like, whenever you get to the promotion-demotion conversation, it's like doing a very complicated math problem. And that's probably why I stink. Absolutely stink at Guess the Banzuke. Because I can't track it. There's just too many numbers. Too much going on. And then you have to throw in the fact that it's all up to their judgment as well. Like, they have these rubrics, but there's all these exceptions that can be made depending on their mood. You know, like if they want to send a message that, you know what, we don't want 5 guys coming up, they could just cut a guy off and say, well, you didn't have the best sumo on the last day. You know, so never forget that non-number like things can also impact that situation. Okay, so Monster says the big takeaway is that a lot of the top division guys are likely hoping for a collapse from the Juryo prospects. Yeah, I bet. There's a lot of aging veterans, a lot of hurt guys. Like Endo is a veteran, but he's not like a veteran. Aoyama, obviously, he's already done for. Then you got the hurt guys like Hokuseiho and Tomokaze. And then you have Terunofuji, and Myogido, the veterans of sumo. And then you got the new guy, Chirano Umi. So they're all having a panic attack down at the bottom. If you do manage a surprise appearance tomorrow, I'll write my notes down so I can make my points quickly and clearly. Sounds good. Because if I do a surprise appearance tomorrow, I am going to want to do maybe 20 minutes. And it would be we'll talk about, what the heck, Hoshiryu won, or wow, Kirishima might do this, or whatever. And then we can talk a little bit about promotion, demotion. And then you're almost talking me into it. Because if I can keep it short, I could probably do it. Because then I could just shift some of my other stuff that I'm doing just by 20 minutes. So it's a strong possibility I show up tomorrow. But no commitments. Because that is a big, big list of potential demotables. That's a way bigger list than I had in my mind. I wasn't, like Mitch, I wasn't really thinking about it too hard. But you always do a quick, oh yeah, Oyama's going down for sure. Oh, who's Roga's looking good. He's probably coming back up. But man, that's a huge list of people who could get promoted and demoted. Daniel says, what really matters is how many slots are open when it comes to promotions. Ichi has gotten promoted with a 10-5 from Jiro 8, and Mitoryu has been snubbed with a 12-3 Yusho at J6. Yeah, exactly. You got to have the spots, but once again, there's where the non-numbers thing comes into play, because they can decide not to demote a guy in the upper division when they've demoted a guy with a similar record before, because they might say, he won on the last day and this Juryo guy wasn't good enough. So we're going to, the standard is there, but it's not set in stone. You can kind of do what you want. The guys that get a good setup going there. I mean, you really have to do it that way, because these are all individual people and individual circumstances. If you try to be too cut and dry, then there'd be problems. There'd be problems on the other way. I can't even go late. I got to go zebra some basketball tomorrow night anyhow. So what time is that? Is the 9:15 time slot good, or should I try to come a little earlier? I mean, I also don't know if I can, but it'd be good to have an idea of, if 9:15 works, or 9 o'clock, I could go 9 to 9:20. I think I need to at least till 9 o'clock. It's hard for me to start before 9. So let me know. If we can make it work, why not? I enjoy talking to you guys. I actually have a karate promotional test Saturday morning, so I don't want to stay up late and have to deal with that, because those tests are brutal. Even when you're lowly blue belt like myself, they are brutal. It's like everybody's watching you. All the black belts are there. Everything's high energy. Go, 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 go. The sparring is way, way quicker and way more intense than a regular class. And it's like, I just want my mind completely focused. And I don't want to be tired. Mitch says 9:15 is 5. I have a 7 p.m. jump tomorrow. Okay. So, You're kind of talking me into it, I think. I think maybe I'll come on tomorrow, but for only 20 minutes. If something happens where it's like I can't make it happen, then I'll put a message. Either way, there'll be a message on the community board whether I'm coming on or not. Monster says Toby Zaro versus Ura tomorrow. Komusubi Toby incoming. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, and then the other match that I think people are hyped for. At least I am. John is. A couple others I know. So yes, the classic Toby Zaro versus Ura match, which actually first got Mitch all fired up. So tomorrow is going to have like the big matches like Hoshoryu and Kirishima, Kotonowaka and Terunofuji. Then we have Toby Zaro Ura, and we have Abi versus Ichi Yamamoto. Yes. Yes. So we're going to have some nice fun matches on top of the serious matches. So I am really looking forward to day 13. I did not like today that much. I was like, just, it's so anticlimactic. Monster says, couldn't go a whole live stream without mentioning Toby Zaro. Not that damn chicken match again. Which reminds me, I actually have a note about this. When Ura beat Gonoyama today, the roof almost came off the place. People love, love, love Ura. My goodness. So, and I wouldn't say as many people like Toby Zaro, but people love the Ura Toby Zaro match. So, for all your complaining, Mitch, like the Japanese fans are going to be fired up. And that gets me fired up. Monster says, Abi versus Ichi Yamamoto. I hope it goes to it was on our list. It was on our wish list that Abi Ichi Yamamoto goes to Tori Naoshi and we get to watch them fight twice. Spanky, hey, I'm glad you're here. Were you listening the whole time and just waiting to chat, or did you just stop in now? Spanky's rooting for Toby Zaro. Monster says, I can't believe I forgot about that. Wow, you didn't realize Abi hasn't faced Ichi Yamamoto yet. I know, there's been like, it's like we knew it was going to happen, but all this other stuff happened, so it kind of felt like, oh, maybe it happened and we forgot about it. But no, it's tomorrow. Very, very cool. Mitch says, nice. Abi versus Abi Light could be interesting. I can't wait. I am like so pumped up for that match, and it's stupid. It's very silly, but I don't know. I think it's going to be spectacular. I've been waiting years for this match. Okay, so Spanky was here. I know some people actually who do listen live, but they don't want to comment because they just don't have anything to say, or they just don't want to say anything. So I'm always curious, like how many people are actually here versus who's commenting. We had quite a few people on the stream last night. I was shocked. Like quite a few people for us, not quite a few people for like a big YouTube channel, but like when I was watching Sumo Primetime do it, and Hiro was he was overwhelmed. He had like hundreds of people just throwing things at him, and then they start throwing super chats, and he doesn't even know what they are. And it's like, wait a minute, people are giving me money? What's going on? I should be reading these comments, but I've got this whole like list of notes, and you know, I feel like I could handle it now, but I don't know that we're ever going to get to that kind of place. Anyone want to place bets on Abi versus Ichi Yamamoto Yotsu battle? First, let's place a bet on who's going to win. I expect, if I don't get it, I'm going to be... Can you imagine, like, if Abi Hankas tomorrow? Or what if we get a double Hanka? Please, nobody do that crap. But I expect the full-on wave of slaps from both guys. And that's what everybody expects, and that's what everyone wants. And I hope they remember that, because the fans want to be entertained. Monster says, Wakataka Kage fights Haruyama for the Makushita Yusho tonight. Ooh. That's cool. Was Wakataka Kage supposed to fight Hoshoryu? Not Hoshoryu. Wow. Haku Oho? Was that a match that happened or was going to happen? And then Monster says, I bet Abi does a Hanka, so Abi wins. Abi is the Hanka demon, Mace. He really is. And he tried so hard in the beginning of the tournament to like do the perfect, slap technique that his stable master had. I mean, he was amazing at it. And it just wasn't working. I think it's the elbow. And he was just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to become Demon Abi again. And that was the end of it. And now we don't know what kind of shenanigans he's going to come up with. And Fuji Seun versus Takashoki are the Sandame crown tonight. Oh, I forget that the lower divisions do their championships sooner. I'll have to pop around and see if I can catch any of those. And the monster says, hey, double hankas or peak sumo. I'm trying to remember the last time I saw a double hanka. The only thing that comes to mind is the weird Hakuho Tobizaru match. I am still very amused by that. Like, Tobizaru wanted to play... Well, Hakuho played head games with Tobizaru first. And Tobizaru was kind of like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And everyone was so, like, all the Sumo Association and some of the fans were, like, mad at Hakuho. It's like, stop being so mad. Like, every once in a while, we have to have something wild and crazy. It doesn't always have to be like the Yokozuna is perfect or the Ozeki is perfect. Certainly, we don't want cheap things, but come on, if you're fighting Tobizaru, you already know he's going to do something weird, so, Daniel said, Haku Oho lost to Onokatsu, so Katsu faced Waka. Oh, lame. I would have loved to have seen Haku Oho versus Waka Takakage. So if he had won, then it would have been Haku Oho versus Waka Takakage tonight for the championship. Monster says, Abi is probably the most likely guy to get into Sanyaku along with Tobizaru. He's had a comeback this basho. I do expect that. But, like I said, you don't know. But that does seem like that's what's going to happen. I feel like Abi should be able to pull it off. Unless Ichi Yamamoto does something sketchy himself, Mitch says, in general, for Makushita and below, the matchups are usually made based on matching records. Once Haku Oho lost to Onokatsu, that patch probably wasn't going to happen unless Waka Takakage picked up a loss. Okay. Yeah, I don't really know that much about Makushita and below. I probably should get somewhat of a familiarity since, we keep getting these guys injured and winding up down there. I mean, it's going to take forever. It's just taking so long to get our guys back. I really hope both Haku Oho and Waka Takakage are in Juryo in March. Monster says, well, Abi has had a rough go of it lately, so I say good for him. Yeah, when I watched the Chris Sumo video and he was talking about like how Abi was lying in bed with the stable master while he was dying, and then Abi was like so defiant and was like, yeah, I know people are going to make fun of me, but whatever, I loved the guy. It really touched me. And I was like, man, there's so much more to Abi. He's very atypical Japanese, which is why he's gotten into so much trouble, because he is the raised nail. But for him to be just so outward about his feelings and just caring so much about his stable master, and then going to the tour just a couple hours after the funeral and sort of laughing with everybody, I thought, okay, so he does some crazy stuff in the dohyo, but the guy's got a lot inside of him. It's hard for me not to root for Abi, even though I really didn't like what he did to Takayasu. That stunk. But still, like, a win's a win, right? And if Abi's crazy, then you should prepare for it. Mitch says, if you take a quick peek at the Makushita post on the Tachiai page, you'll get a good idea of how they set that stuff up. Yeah, I should do that. I like to go on tachiai.org to read their summaries and stuff after the fact. So I should take a look at that. I try very hard not to watch any podcasts, read any articles that specifically speak about what the sumo wrestlers are going to do, like preview shows, until after I've done my preview show, because I don't want to be influenced by other people's opinions. I want to just look at the news articles, the Twitter stuff that's being said, and just go from there. But then after I've given my opinion, I like to go and see what everybody's saying, because it's interesting to me. So I go on tachiai.org after I do all my stuff, just to see, hey, were there any agreements? Was there anything I didn't think of? Monster says, so you're like me, you got a soft spot for the dislike guys. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's probably why my fervor for Takakeisho is even greater than my love for him was before he was hated. It's funny because last night, Daniel said, give me a baseball sumo comparison. And I can't give a comparison based on like the actual sports, but I can give you a Takakeisho situation. So back in 2001, it was before this, but back in 2001, Tino Martinez was my favorite player, and he was getting a lot of heat for not being like a home run hitter. Like he was, but he wasn't. Like he could hit these clutch home runs and like win amazing games, but he wasn't going to hit 50, 60 home runs. And the Yankees wanted to bring in a guy, Jason Giambi. And the internet was sort of new. Like it wasn't new, but it wasn't like it is now. And I got on the message boards and I got the name Tino supporter. And I was out there raging on the internet. I was the person putting all caps and everything. Like, you leave Tino alone. He's done so much for the Yankees. How could you just do this to him? And when I was raging about Takakeisho and everybody hating on him, I'm like, wow, I'm having a feeling of deja vu. So apparently there is a pattern for me for the type of athletes I like, why I like them, and how I like them. Not that I want to be that guy, but what is going to happen with the Shikoroyama stable? Tatsugawa Ayakata is running the stable, but he didn't actually assume the Shikoroyama Kabu. Well, your guess is as good as mine, Mitch, because that's all. There's so many conversations that go on behind the scenes that we find out about later. So he didn't get the Kabu, but who got it? Do you know that? Is it being saved for someone? Is this whole stable going to just go under? Because that happens too. Is it going to get absorbed by somebody larger? Monster says, no, I get it. I think I'm the same way. Yeah, it's sort of rooting for the underdog, but at the same time, like, I do root for underdogs, but at the same time, I also like really talented guys. So I wouldn't say I'm always rooting for like the guy who's at the bottom to rise to the top. Sometimes I'm rooting for the top guy who nobody likes, or there's this divide as to whether they like him or not. If I've seen that they've put so much effort into something. Effort means something to me. Effort means more than results in some cases. So if somebody is trying and trying and trying, man, I have a bleeding heart for that. Mitch says, still vacant. No clue what's going on. I thought Homosho was going to assume the Kabu, but that didn't happen. See, this is one of those things where there's conversations going on, and there might be, well, this one guy, I mean, everybody's wheeling and dealing. This one guy is going to retire in 2 years. Can we just like patch this together because I want to give it to him because I had this deal with this guy. And you're like, wait a minute. Who was the original guy who had it and what happened to him? So it's so messy. It's so very messy. And what's Kakadu's stable called again? Because now I'm going to take a while to be able to remember his stable. Monster says exactly. Yeah, I'm kind of a little disappointed that we don't have like so much more stuff going on in this tournament because it was so hyped. It was like everybody showed up. All these promotion opportunities, all this like, you know, guys fighting for their hometowns and things like that. And now it's just like a bunch of injuries, bunch of weird stuff. Not much to talk about for day 12. Mitch says, in case I caused confusion, Homosho is Tatsagawa Ayakata. I thought either he would swap names of the stable, would change names, but neither thing happened. Well, maybe something is about to happen and they paused it. That's another thing that could have happened. Well, it just kind of happened all according to plan. It's honestly not what I'm used to in sumo. No, if you've been a fan the last couple of years, that is not what you would expect. You would expect the unexpected. You come in and you're like, I have no idea who's going to win. It could be Maegaeshira 16 or it could be the Yokozuna if he shows up. Mitch says, Kakadu is Otowayama Oyakata. Oh, man. That is a name. It's going to be hard to remember. Monster says, like, it's so normal. It's weird. Yeah, especially because, you know, you don't always have 3 Ozeki. So you've got 2 Ozeki and a Yokozuna, and they're all the top guys. And then you got, like, the Maegaeshira 1 hanging in there. So it's like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to go. So there's nothing to talk about. And nobody's... Like, I think there was one Hanka. It was like a little shift to the side, but there hasn't been any. There's been no wild Hankas. There's been no weird calls. There's been no controversy of any kind. And now I'm jinxing it. And everything's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to have double Hanka. We're going to have a Gyoji make a call that they don't mono-e on one of the major matches. And everybody's going to be angry by the end of the tournament because everybody gets angry all the time. Or Kotonowaka just sails right through and that's that. And Kirishima will have to try again. I really don't want that to happen though. Oh, I don't. Okay. Well, if we don't have any other topics, I might sign off with the idea that I will be back tomorrow for a very brief 20 minutes or so. Not committing, but hopefully. Mitch is coming through with a comment. Take, for example, what happened with Azumaseki's stable before it closed. The master died, and the kabu got taken up by someone to fill the spot. But here, no one is filling that kabu. I'm just confused. Wasn't, like, what happened with Takanohana, too, when he left? Didn't somebody take that briefly and then... I mean, obviously there is no Takanohana anymore. Is it Toitsikaze stable now? So, like, something weird happened there with with Takanohana as well. I'm telling you, it's not filled because they're holding it for someone. There's some secret deal going on. Maybe it's Takekeisho. No, I don't think so. But I'm just saying. There's some secret deal going on. And it's probably a current wrestler who's looking to take the spot. And they're just trying to, like, you know, stall. That's my guess. Okay. Oh, Takanohana had the special kabu that you can't pass on. So when he left the Sumo Association, it left with him. Which, by the way, Hakuho should have had, but that's here nor there. That's very interesting. Because you would have some guys who would, retire or die in the role. And if you can't pass it on, it's like, this was just for you and can never be, it doesn't expand the elder stock. Spanky says, Terunofuji and Hoshoryu for the wins on day 13. The end of Kotonowaka's Ozeki run starts now. Ooh, that's a big call right there. That's a big call. I wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't mind it. Mitch says, Takanohana was a different thing. That stable closed and was absorbed by another. Like Daniel said, the Takanohana Ichidai Toshiori couldn't be transferred. Right, but that's all because he left. Like, it closed because he just took off. It's not the typical thing. Monster says, like in Smash, my favorite player is Sonics. He trains harder than anyone, but he's unpopular because he slows the game down a lot, so people hate him. That's why I'll always sympathize with Hokuseiho. You amuse me. You amuse me with your picks. It's like, Hokuseiho, maybe someday. I gotta see his effort though. I mean, I believe it's got to be there, but you just don't see it on the ring. The lean is very hard to sympathize with. Now, granted, if his knee has been hurting for multiple tournaments, that might be why he sort of fell into this pattern. But it's not what I want to see from somebody who's a protege of Hakuho. Especially when you have Hakuoho coming back and he's going to just like dominate the field unless injuries prevent him from being any better. Okay, let's see. Since becoming my favorite, Sonic's turned into arguably the best player in the world, so it was a good investment, I'll tell you. When you invest in the underdog or the hard worker, you do get a payoff a lot of times. Not always, because you have variables out there. But I feel like it's always a safe bet to root for the guy who's working hard. Spanky says, Hokuseiho needs to develop skills beyond being very big. Until that happens, he'll be a ham and egger. Well, Hakuho saw something in him. He saw something in him to like recruit him so hard. But he did say in the very beginning when Hokuseiho got promoted to Makauchi that he is not comfortable with his size. He has not found a way to fight in his size. And, I can sympathize with that because he's way taller than almost everybody. And he can't actually engage in the Tachi-ai like everybody else can. Very few people can meet him face to face at the Tachi-ai. And that's where the whole thing starts. Probably at least 90% of matches are decided at the Tachi-ai. So if you can never engage with your opponent, it's just messed up. It's like permanently putting you like... It's the opposite of Takakeisho's problem. Takakeisho's too short and too small. Hokuseiho being too tall is just as big of a problem for him. Mitch says, another example of the Ichidai Toshiori Kabu stable was the former Taino stable. When Taino left the stable, stayed together, but was run by Otake Oyakata, and the stable took the Otake name. That stable is still the same Otake stable that is running today, which is Oho stable. Yeah, that's very tricky. That's very, very tricky. I think that happens. I think that's happened a couple of times in the modern time, hasn't it? Like when Takanohana left, who took over? Because I don't think that's the same person who's still running it now. Like I know they got transferred to another stable, but after they got transferred to that stable, it's not the same stable, I think. Spanky says, Hokuseiho needs to watch films of Akebono and learn how to be big and effective. That would definitely benefit him. And the thing is, he's got the best coach in the world, like the best sumo wrestler. I don't know if he's the best coach, but the best sumo wrestler in the world. Like, he should be able to, give him all sorts of advice. With Hokuseiho, he is still very new, and his long legs give him a unique body type that makes it harder to emulate other Rikishi. Yeah, the thing is, Kageyaki kind of has that problem too, which is a shame that Kageyaki's fallen out right when Hokuseiho comes up, because there's a good battle right there. Those guys can look at each other face to face. Taiho. Freaking autocorrect. Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, Taino. He probably means Taiho, but I'm just going to ignore it. Low-key, Hakuho trains a lot of gimmicky Rikishi, doesn't he? Hokuseiho, Ishiura, Enho. That's a little tricky because of Hakuho owes a lot to Ishiura's father. So that's the Ishiura thing. The Enho thing is that Hakuho came in so small that that in the stable they said to him, you should just give up this whole sumo wrestler thing and you should just be a hairdresser for the stable. Because he was way too thin and he couldn't gain weight. So that's the issue that Enho has. I guess Enho doesn't like beef, which puts him or it's not beef. He doesn't like noodles or rice or something like that. So puts him in this position where he makes it even harder to gain the weight. So Hakuho has like this sort of soft spot for Enho because he was Enho in a way, though brief. Maybe that's it. Hakuho was just a big freaking softie. He probably feels for Hokuseiho. He probably thinks, okay, this is a giant man. There's so much potential here, but he's going to be hard to work with. Monster says, hey, they all got Tamako Uchi. No shame in using gimmicks when they work. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Ishiura, his dad, big name in high school sumo. Ishiura is kind of like a prince in sumo. It's like, even though he's obviously he's retired now, but even though he was a lower ranker, he had a lot more clout than the average guy of his rank. Right. Takanohana's stable closed entirely, and they were all transferred. When they got transferred to the other stable, that is not the same stable they're in now, correct? Like, I don't think it's the same stable name, and maybe not the same coach, because I feel like Takakeisho's on his third coach. But I'm always confused about this. Spanky says, you gotta love mighty midget Enho, small man, huge heart. Of course. Enho is the quintessential type of guy that I root for. But unfortunately, I mean, he's got a severe, severe neck injury. And the doctors told him to quit, and he won't do it. He didn't come back this tournament, but he's determined he's going to come back, and he's going to get back to the top division. It's like, dude, no. Look at what happened to Ishiura. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're set for life. Hakuho will take care of you, okay? Don't hurt yourself. Quackadoo says hamster. Glad that you're here, Quackadoo. New stable. Same stable had a name change. Okay. That at least makes sense. So it's the same coach. Even though, I don't know. I don't know why I thought it was a different coach. I don't know. Sumo kind of shoots itself in the foot with the elder stock. Like, I understand to some degree you want to have it something that you have to really strive for and not just anybody can get it. But you've got enough guys. Like, what do you mean you can't be a coach if you don't get elder stock? You know what I mean? It's like, Enho would be a great coach. You don't have to be like the coach. You could have a bunch of assistant coaches. What do you mean you can't be in sumo anymore if you don't have elder stock? That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. Hello, Darren. I'm finally on for a live stream. Heck yeah. Good time to come on. I'm trying to answer as many or address as many comments or questions as possible because we ran out of stuff to talk about with the U show because it's pretty straightforward. It's just 4 guys. and a couple of very cool matches like Abi versus Ichi Yamamoto. They got transferred to Chigana Ura Stable, which then switched Kabu names and then was renamed Tokiwayama. Okay, thank you. Chigana Ura is what I remembered. And I can never remember that it's now Tokiwayama. Okay. I should sear this into my brain so that I don't ask this question again in the future. So is it still Chigana Ura who is actually running the show? Quackadoo says Kitty wins. I think everybody wants that. I hope that is the case. Unfortunately, he's got to hope that Kota Nawaka loses, because if Kota Nawaka just wins the next 3 days, he doesn't even get a shot. I mean, obviously he's going to fight him. That's where he gets his opportunity, but still, he's not in control of his destiny yet. If he loses tomorrow against Hoshoryu and Kota Nawaka wins, he puts himself in a place where he won't be able to do anything. I can't wait. I wish we were there right now. I wish we could just get to day 13, find out what's going to go on, and be done with it. Mitch says, yes, same coach. He's just now called Tokiwayama. Quackadoo, has Kota Nawaka ever beaten Teru? I don't know. We should look that up, but I don't think he has. Off the top of my head, I don't think he has. Where do we find that? Is there somewhere we can find that head-to-head record? Let's see. Kota Nawaka. Yeah, we really can't see that here. We'd have to go somewhere else, I think. Aim. Good. Teru wins. I do want Terunofuji to beat Kota Nawaka tomorrow. I don't want Kota Nawaka not to get the Ozeki thing, but I'm not rooting for him to tank the Yokozuna prospects. Like, I really want Kirishima to just become the Yokozuna, because we need to, lock that up. That needs to be done. We don't need to be playing this game where, oh no, we're not going to have a Yokozuna. This needs to be done. Mitch says, I wanted to throw a fit about requirements to get a Kabu. I think it needs to be stricter. Oh, that's interesting, because here I am saying, the opposite. I'm saying, oh, they should let more guys in. Maybe I don't feel like more guys need to be in, but I feel like there needs to be a way for you to be able to stay in sumo even if you're not a coach. But it seems like the only thing you can do is open a restaurant. Darren says 6-0 in favor of Teru, as in Teru has won 6 and Koto 0. Okay. If Kota Nawaka wins tomorrow, then it's a whole different thing. Good night, Drop Tune. Thank you for coming by. And Quackadoo says, nice, Teru can beat him again. Wakamoto Haru is on, Kota Nawaka is on the top 10 least liked Rikishi of 2023. So apparently that sentiment is also in the 42 Opinions community. Maybe it's that whole legacy Rikishi thing. I don't know. All right, guys. I think I'm going to go. Every time I say that, you send another comment, but it's been 30 years since there was not an active Yokozuna. It's definitely not a place they want to be at. And Darren says, I don't hate him. He just doesn't have a lot of personality. That makes sense. I mean, honestly, if you can't see some cool spark from a guy, it's harder to connect with him. Kota Nawaka was the overall most controversial Rikishi statistically. Oh, really? I thought Taka Keisho changed a bit. Mitch said, my main point on tightening up these requirements is for the example of like Akisayama. As much as I like him, as someone that's career high Maegaeshira 12 and spent the whole 4 Basho Makauchi deserving. Yeah. I mean, he's not more deserving than somebody who put in their time. That's for sure. That's the part where it's like, okay, maybe not everybody gets Kabu, but maybe there's some other role for these guys so that they don't, I mean, a lot of them like give up their entire lives for sumo. So it's like, just because you weren't the best doesn't mean you want to be kicked out of something that meant so much to you. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't want to pretend I do. Icy Vegeta says, it's just such a shame Teru's knees are basically on borrowed time. It is. I would have loved to have seen him dominate. What I wanted to see was Terunofuji and Takakeisho at their peak health fighting each other for a lot longer than we had. We only had like, I think it was 2 tournaments where they each got an opportunity to best the other. And those were some very exciting, cool tournaments. And, we lost them both, unfortunately. Yes, it is happening again, Monster. I am here forever. You guys, as soon as I say I'm going to go, everyone's like, hurry up, send a comment, quick. And then they're good comments, and I feel like I have to read them. Mitch says, one of the allotted 105 Kabu. So there's 105. That's like such a small amount for how many guys are in sumo, though. I don't know. I get it. I get both sides of it. I really do. Kotonowaka was 11 or 12 on the popularity list, I think. I think it was 11. So closest total likes and dislikes for someone who got a lot of both. Wow. It's got to be the personality thing. I could see that being the reason because he hasn't done anything wrong. He isn't Hanka or anything like that. Although he does hurt people. He did hurt Wakamoto Haru. So closest likes and dislikes for someone who got a lot of both. I just read that. There is a Juryo man who got to be a stable master. Who's that? Highest rank. Also, last Basho you said nobody dislikes Tsurugisho, but I'm pretty sure he has a lot more least favorite votes than you or I expected. Yeah, sometimes you get biased because you're like, oh wow, look at all these great attributes to this guy. And then you can't turn off like, yeah, but he's also, always down towards the lower end of the spectrum. He's teetering between Makauchi and Juryo. He's hurt. He doesn't always have the most exciting sumo. So somebody who doesn't see all those cool qualities or see the interviews is not going to find much to like about Tsurugisho. Mitch says, I know. I just think that if you're going to keep the number of Kabu at 105, I think there needs to be more strict criteria as to who's getting those stocks. I think you don't do things like not give Hakuho the special Kabu. Because there's a spot right there that could have been freed. I mean, if you've worked as hard and done as much as Hakuho, it should be given. Mitch says, Otake Oyakata, career high rank of Juryo 4. Well, yeah, once again, that he's Oho's, right? Oho is not getting the most experienced advice by someone who's never gotten out of Juryo. Yeah, him. Yep, he's probably the only one who is in that situation. And once again, like, these guys do things behind the scenes, like trade elder stock and money's involved and connections. And so you don't necessarily have to be the guy to get somebody's Kabu. Which is very confusing and stressful to me. All right, how about this? Since you guys always keep me here forever. I'm looking at the timer. The timer says I've been on for 1 hour and 19 minutes. Regardless of what comments are around, I'm going to go at 1:25. So that gives you 6 minutes to spam as much things as you can think of to keep me here. So I don't keep saying, hey, I'm going to go. And then you keep me here. So 6 minutes it is. Mitch says, I also think that they need to get rid of Sanyo status for these coaches. What is Sanyo status? I don't know what that is. Please tell me what that is. Is there anybody out there? Guys, you can't have moments of silence. Thank you, Mitch. Why give a guy another 5 years when he can't do all that much of anything? What does that mean? Like you can buy another 5 years of the Kabu? I know you have to retire at 65. So does that mean this gives the guys another 5 years after 65? Where do you get this information anyway? I need to know where to go to learn all of the stuff that you guys know. Up. 20 seconds. Sanyo status is when a coach is required to retire at 65. He is granted 5 extra years with the Kabu. That's what I figured. Isn't that what happened with Miyagi? Hakuho's coach before him? I don't know if that's true or not. We have Teru's coach coming up on 65 as well, don't we? Isegahama? He takes a 30% pay cut and he can't be a stable master. So what does he do? Hoshoryu. What about Hoshoryu? Oh, do you think Hoshoryu is going to win it all? Is that what you're saying? Check the Kabu list on Sumo DB. Okay. Where do we have Kabu list? Oh, here we go. Oh, so this is where you guys get all this info. Oh boy, this is a lot to comb through. I'll have to take a look at this later. Kiryu stable at 65 this March. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who are reaching the golden 65. Monster says, or maybe it was more of a smack. Yes, Hakuho's coach took Sanyo status under Magaki name. Yeah, that's why that happened. So he got the Magaki name first, and then he got Miyagi-no after that. That was probably for Hakuho's sake, though. Like, maybe that's the point of that 5 extra years is to wheel and deal. Then he left anyway to give the Kabu to Ishihara. Like I said, Ishihara's dad, very, very well-connected man in sumo. There's no way his son wasn't going to get to be a stable master. It's kind of funny, actually, when you watch some of the videos from Japan where they show the training sessions and you see Ishihara come in and he's like this tiny little dude and he's like ordering everybody around. I love it. Okay, we have 1 minute and counting. Anything that you guys want to talk about, we got to do it in a minute. Mitch says, or Quackadoo says, I'm just glad Kakadu got one. Me too. I was starting to sweat and think, wow, maybe he's not going to get it. It took him pretty much his whole grace period to get one. And Monster says, yeah, I'm honestly pretty good on topics for today. I'll have more to say about the promotion pictures tomorrow, but for now, And Mitch says, Hakuho Hakuho had Magaki, then switched when Old Master reached 65. And Bob Gob says Teru might be holding out until he can become Isegahama, but that would be a long time to keep taking bashos off. I would say yes to that, except I heard there's now some bad blood between Teru and Isegahama, which is weird. Like, where did that suddenly come from? Maybe that's just a rumor, but all of a sudden it seems like they're not on the same speaking terms that they were when Teru, rose again in front of his stable master to become Ozeki and then Yokozuna and win these titles. All of a sudden they've gotten icy, and it's been since the scandal that rocked that stable that made Isegahama lose his role in the JSA. So I don't know if Teru got a little bit of correction. I don't know if Isegahama feels like Teru didn't get punished enough. Something went down with that scandal, and it really, at least the timing, makes it seem like that caused a divide. And Kwakidu says, yes, he won't get Isegahama, I think. I don't think he's getting it. I think Isegahama will not give it to him because of whatever bad blood happened in the last year or so. Bob Gob says, what was the scandal? There was a lower level wrestler who was bullying a newcomer, and I think he beat him up pretty bad, and the parents came in, the police report was filed, which isn't the way they like to do these things. And so Isegahama got kicked out of the Banzuke committee and all the roles he had. He was ringside judge, and now it's Kotonowaka's dad. So, yeah, it was a little messy. If you go to tachiai.org, there's probably a whole thing on it. Spanky says, anything to say? Yes, thank you for carving out time in your day to give us this platform and for the very enjoyable experience that it is. Why, thank you, Spanky. As I have said in other situations, it's only as fun as the people who show up. So if it was just me here and nobody showed up, it would not be as fun. So I thank all of you for making it fun and making it worth my time to come and do this as well. Mitch says, nope, Isegahama, I think, is gunning for Sanyo, and someone else is set to take the stable over. Once again, somewhere in the back room, deals are being made. Is that the Oshoma thing? I can't remember who. I honestly can't remember who it was, but the guy who got bullied left Sumo. The guy who did the bullying got kicked out. Isegahama got in trouble. Yeah, he resigned from the judging committee and then lost his ranking in the JSA hierarchy. Yeah, he lost everything that was gave him prominence. And then all of a sudden, things get real icy with Teru. So I don't know. Oshoma is the Naruto stable mess. I don't know. I almost think that was a separate thing. I think there was two scandals. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Naruto stable thing was different than the Isegahama stable situation. It's hard to keep track of all these scandals. They happen so frequently. But yeah, like I said, go to Tachiai. They probably have something there. The Oshoma thing was completely ignored by the JSA. Yeah, it was actually. Quackadoo says, I love Sumo. I love Sumo too, Quackadoo. Mitch says there were two bullies in the Isegahama mess. One was forced out and the other was suspended 2 tournaments. Ah, yeah, that's right. There was 2. And then the guy they were bullying just left. He was done. And it was such a black eye considering that things were going so well for that stable. Isegahama, he's right there center stage. He's got the Yokozuna. At the time, Nishiki Fuji and Midori Fuji were having great tournaments. So it was the Fujis were running the show. Scandal hits and just everything falls apart. Mitch says, yes, 2 different scandals and completely separate from the Michinoku bullying scandal. Oh, yes. There have been various bullying scandals. And I forgot all about the Michinoku one. Yeah, it's rough. It's very rough. Because this stuff is still going on somewhere, but it only pops up when somebody wants it to pop up, and it doesn't when somebody doesn't want it to pop up. I would be very curious to see how Oshoma would place on the unpopularity list. Would he be above or below Ryuden? Depends on how many people really were paying attention. I'm still surprised that people knew about Ryuden. It wasn't like a big... Maybe it was bigger in Japan, but it wasn't well spoken about outside of that. And different from the recent Kokonoi drinking scandal. Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. The one where the attendant was forced to drink, and then he got in trouble even though he was forced to drink. Monster said, but Oshoma has been injured and very, very middling in Juryo, so who knows if that'll ever happen. Yeah, I mean, if the guy never shows up again, it'll be forgotten. Like if he shows up 6 tournaments from now, who's going to remember? All right, guys, I am past the 125 mark. I gave you an extra 5 minutes. So it sounds like I am going to come back tomorrow, barring some thing I cannot change. If I come back, it'll be 9:15 tomorrow. It'll only be for about 20-25 minutes. We'll talk about who won the major matches, and we'll talk about the promotion demotion, and that's it, because we have to save some stuff for John and I to talk about on the recap show, which will be recorded on Sunday and released on Monday. It is not live on Monday, but I am in the chat, so you are still able to chat with me just through typing. Bob Gob says, let's go day 13. Yes, I can't wait for day 13. And Mitch says, underage kid forced to drink, got thrown under the bus by his coach, and then he quit altogether. Yes, and that is the culture that really needs to change. That kind of stuff, because, these kids trust you. You can't be doing that to them. Monster says, thank you for streaming. Mitch says, I'm finished. See you tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you for hanging out with me for so long. Enjoy your day 13, because I know I will.